Good afternoon, I'm Alicia Fireherm, and this is TMNtv News. Today we have news on campus and local events, plus updates on some of the top news stories from the last few weeks. But first, we will take a look at the lasting effects of September 11th, 2001. Today marks the 22nd anniversary of the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Every year, the day and those who died are remembered at commemoration events, such as the 3rd annual Memorial Stair Climb that took place here in Hayes on Saturday. The impact of 9/11 is still felt 22 years later, as those who were there continue to face the effects. Here's more on that from the Tribune News Service.
As the country marks the 22nd anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, the death toll continues to climb. The New York City Fire Department added 43 names of firefighters to the World Trade Center Memorial Wall, who have all died from 9/11 related illnesses. According to website The Hill, this marks the second largest group added to the wall since its creation in 2011, when 55 names were added. The wall is a tribute to the firefighters killed that fateful day, as well as those dying from complications while responding to the scene. The wall now contains 331 FDNY members who lost their lives after 9/11 and 343 members who died the day of the attacks. Fire Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh said in a statement, "As we approach the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, the FDNY continues to feel the impact of that day. Each year, this memorial wall grows as we honor those who gave their lives in service of others. These brave men and women showed up that day and in the days and months following the attacks to participate in the rescue and recovery efforts at the World Trade Center site. We will never forget them."
Just as classes were beginning last month, former President Donald Trump was booked at the Fulton County Jail in Georgia on August 24th. He was brought in on 13 felony counts stemming from his efforts to overturn the 2020 election in Georgia. His mugshot was soon widely shared on social media platforms, as he is the first former U.S. president to have a mugshot. A week after the booking, Trump pleaded not guilty to the charges and has since criticized the indictments. According to NPR, Trump appeared at a rally in South Dakota on Friday, where he claimed the charges against him are being used as political weapons aimed to slow his momentum as he campaigns for the 2024 election. A court date has not yet been set for Trump's charges in Georgia. He's also facing charges in separate cases for mishandling classified documents, falsifying legal records, and conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election. The number of missing people in Lahaina, Hawaii has dropped to 66. The news comes over a month after deadly wildfires in the town on August 8th. Just last week, the number of missing people was significantly higher, totaling 385. According to AP News, the number of people confirmed to be dead is 115. Lawsuits have now been filed against the Hawaii Electric Company, which Maui County says failed to turn off power in windy and dry conditions. Here's more on the lawsuit, courtesy of Fox News Houston.
All right, we're certainly thinking about everybody there also in Hawaii. Now Hawaii's electric company is taking responsibility for one of the fires that started on Maui earlier this month, but not the one that killed at least 115 people. Hawaiian Electric says downed power lines was the cause of the first fire the morning of August 8th. But they say the second deadly fire was the fault of firefighters who left the scene after thinking they contained the fire. Hawaiian Electric says their power lines were de-energized before the second fire ignited. The county of Maui is suing Hawaiian Electric for negligence.
Currently, organizations such as the American Red Cross, Maui United Way, and others have received donations to aid victims of the fires. Federal money from assistance programs and grants is also being distributed. Moving on to weather, I hope everyone enjoyed the rain showers yesterday and this morning. Temperatures this week will be in the 70s with chances of rain throughout the week. Sunday is set to be the warmest day of the week with a high of 79, and today is the coldest day of the week with a high of 70 degrees. Last week I felt like we finally got a taste of fall weather, and I'm looking forward to some cooler weather after some of those 90-degree days we've been having here recently. When we come back from commercials, Caden Sanders with sports.
5, 4, 3...
know you'll love what you see here on our campus in Hayes, America.
With over 200 academic programs, small classroom sizes, and a 96% success rate, we will make sure you get the tools you need to succeed.
We are proud to offer you 120 clubs and student organizations, over 300 different intramural activities, and countless other ways to get involved here on campus.
As the most affordable four-year institution in the entire state, we are excited to offer you the best value in education anywhere. Not to mention our robust scholarship programs to help minimize that stress of paying for college.
We hope you enjoyed Tiger Nation, and we can't wait for you to see yourself here.
Hello and welcome back to this week's Sports Update. I'm Caden Sanders. The Fort Hays State football team came into last week's game receiving votes for the first time since 2021 season. For the Tigers, it fueled the fire as they had their home opener against the third best team in the nation, Pitt State. For the game, it was a tale of two halves for the Tigers that they wished that they had ended at halftime, beating the Gorillas 14-13. After halftime, the Gorillas turned up the dial and finished off the Tigers 40-14. Fort Hays State moves to week 3 of the season 1-1 and will welcome Northwest Missouri State for Family Weekend. The Fort Hays State volleyball team hosted the Tiger Classic this past weekend here in Hays. For the Tigers, they were perfect as they took on 4 teams from 4 different conferences in the region. The Tigers won 3-1 matches against New Mexico Highlands, Minnesota State, and Cameron. But the Tigers won 3 straight sets against Southern Nazarene. Fort Hays State is now 6-3 on the season. The Tigers will continue their season with the start of the MIAA schedule as they look to take on Emporia State on Friday and take on the 17th best Washburn on Saturday. The Fort Hays State women's soccer team looked to keep their perfect record on the line against 2 Northern Sun League teams at home this past weekend. On Friday, the Tigers took on Sioux Falls. That was tied at halftime, but the Tigers found the back of the net twice with Alex Hutton and Allison Worley. But in the match versus the 15th best Augustana, the Tigers and Vikings tied in the match that the Tigers had opportunities for but never capitalized. The Tigers, 3-0-1, will stay at home as they take on Nebraska Kearney this Friday night and then take on the MIAA's best in Emporia State. The Tigers look to revenge the 5-1 loss that they received from the Hornets in the NCAA tournament. The men's soccer team had a bumpy road trip to Kansas City this past weekend as the Tigers suffered 2 losses to Maryville, 3-1, and then taking on Rockhurst yesterday, losing 2-1. In both games, the Tigers gave up goals early and had to climb back into the matches that they never could. The Tigers moved to 1-3 on the season and look to take on the 7th-ranked Midwestern State at home on Wednesday night at FHSU Soccer Stadium. This past weekend, the FHSU cross-country team hosted their own meet here in Hays as both men's and women's teams came out on top as champions. The cross-country team continues this week with a trip to Stillwater to complete in the Cowboy Jamboree on Friday. Well, that's all the time we have this week for our sports update. Tune in next week when we do it all over again in next week's show.
When you transfer to Fort Hays State University, you discover unmatched affordability, convenience, and powerfully supportive faculty and staff, all with a determination that matches yours. Complete your degree and leap forward in your life and career with Fort Hays State University Online. The best value in education anywhere.
Summer can be a busy time for students. Even though classes aren't in session, students may have internships or part-time jobs or study abroad plans. Students in the biology department spent some of their summer at Fort Leavenworth Military Reservation conducting ecological surveys. I had the opportunity to travel with them and learn more about the project. From mammal trapping and insect identification to tree climbing and snake collecting, FHSU biology students have kept busy this summer with projects at Fort Leavenworth Military Reservation.
This summer we've been working on doing some ecological surveys. A lot of what we've been doing has been involving grad students, undergrad students, across different disciplines, students with different focuses. Typical day would generally include getting to mammal traps first. Obviously animals inside of small metal containers in high heat, high humidity situations. You always have to prioritize mammals. So opening traps, make sure we're rebaiting traps depending on the day, either collecting traps and then processing mammals. So doing things like taking hind foot measurements, tail measurements, sexing the individual, and then getting species measurements as well are typical measurements you would take for small mammals.
This research is funded through a grant from the Department of Defense. The reservation is currently working towards creating wetland habitats in the lower Missouri River Basin, and these ecological surveys are helping further that project.
And so they want to produce a wetland in the floodplain here on the base. And so what we need to do as biologists is say, okay, what's there beforehand? And is there anything that maybe we need to keep an eye on while we're constructing or post-construction? And so we get an idea of what's there before, and then they do their wetland construction, and then we go back afterwards and do a post-wetland construction and see if anything has changed.
Some of the most recent specimens documented on base are from over 80 years ago. Depending on funding availability, this project could continue for several years as the biologists work to further catalog species currently found on the reservation.
We'd like to do a long-term monitoring of certain different biological areas, whether that be herpetology or mammals or the insects. And so the longer we can continue to do the project, the more information, the better knowledge we have about the area.
For Tiger Media Network, I'm Alicia Fireherm. The Student Government Association is officially in session for the year. We caught up with President Ello Burrows and Vice President Emma Day to talk about their plans for the year.
We'll definitely be building on a lot of the progress that was made from the previous administration, and one of the ways that we're hoping to do so is we're lucky enough to have last year's Vice President Austin Rupp as our Legislative Affairs Director, so we have a lot of experience coming in with him, and so we're hoping to continue building on open forums and on communication between Faculty Senate, Staff Senate, AAUP, University Leadership, and the Student Government Association. That was an area that was very much improved last year, and we're hoping to continue building on that progress this year.
So it's been really fun to grow, and I think that the most important thing that's helped us is just the leadership of the executive teams that came before us. They're just so willing to help out and inform and answer questions, and so we just learned a lot, and we're still learning all the time, every day, but we're really excited to be here, and it's been a cool journey.
Students can expect a variety of different SGA events to participate in this semester. Like last year, SGA is hosting an open forum where students can ask a panel of university officials questions about the issues they face. According to Burrows, this event is a great way for students and officials to connect. Another upcoming event for this semester is the Green Event. Similar to the big event that takes place in the spring, the Green Event is a day of service. However, its focus is on sustainability and recycling, so volunteers will be cleaning up around campus and the community in order to benefit the environment. More from Burrows and Day, as well as weekly coverage of SGA meetings, can be found on tigermedianet.com. Tiger Money Mentors are now accepting appointments. This is a new resource this school year that allows students to schedule an appointment with a peer financial advisor. Director of Tiger Money Mentors, Christina Glenn, said she was inspired to start the program during her doctoral program at K-State. K-State has a similar program, and she felt like that idea could be brought to Fort Hays. Here's what she had to say.
there are students everywhere that have questions on how to manage their money. And not only that, being a resource for those students who are having questions about their own personal finances, but it provides an opportunity for experiential learning for the money mentors themselves, because this way they get to practice interacting with clients, they get to practice giving financial advice and helping walk through people through their own personal finance situations, some data gathering skills, communication skills, things that they're going to need to know when they start working with clients when they graduate.
To schedule an appointment with a money mentor, visit their website, fhsu.edu/tiger-money-mentors. If you missed the Hayes Arts Council's Fall Art Walk at the end of last month, we've got you covered. TMN's Eleanor Couchman attended the event and has more.
Paintings, sculptures, photos, and live performances. All were on display last Friday as the Hayes Arts Council hosted its 38th annual Fall Art Walk. This event is hosted every season, and this time was nothing if not eventful.
Is there a storm coming in?
Arts Council Director Brenda Mader is no stranger to adapting. As a 33-year veteran of the Art Walk, she expects the unexpected.
I've had tornado sirens going off before for the Fall Art Walk.
Such contrast could also be found in the art itself. The event began at 5 p.m. with vibrant gardens at Kansas State University's 4 land-grant buildings, including the downtown Cottonwood district. Natural sanctity can be found outside and inside with the Ellis County Breastfeeding Coalition's In My Mother's Arms exhibit. For Coalition Chair Monique Curter, breastfeeding is not only an art, but a dying art.
You know, a lot of people did formula feeding. They were encouraged by their doctors to formula feed.
From there, the event eventually expanded to the Moss Thorns building, the Hayes Public Library, and nearly a dozen other locations. At Toby Ironworks, the art even expanded into the basement, where a decrepit display greeted curious onlookers. Artist Toby Flores is allergic to cats, so in a world obsessed with feline friends, he says he had to find his own outlet.
People know that I collect them, so then my students send them to me. And then I travel a lot overseas, and so I have cat posters from France and from Germany. A girl that I met in Poland over the summer, she sent me a poster from Poland.
For 3 hours, Hayes was covered with art from creators of all different backgrounds, but they all ended the same way, covered in rain after a week of 100-degree heat. A fitting contrast if ever there was one.
I think the diversity of creative energy in this community, whether it's the visual arts, the performing arts, or the literary arts, is magnificent.
Reporting for Tiger Media Network, this is Eleanor Couchman.
Thanks, Eleanor. The next Art Walk will be held on Saturday, December 2nd. One specific exhibit at the Art Walk was Chelsea Augustine's MFA exhibit in the Moss Thorns Gallery titled Metal. Diving into the meaning of the title, here's artist Chelsea Augustine.
Originally I picked that because metal refers to someone's innate spirit, moving through difficult situations, trying to process through it, but you're going through it with a positive and spirited outlook, I guess. I'd picked that originally to be the name because I thought it was really good, a good term to use for the people that inspired these brands and stuff within my show. Because my grandparents and my great-grandparents, I would say they've had a lot of challenges thrown their way throughout life, but they've always found a really good way to move through it. And then I was going through a lot of stuff within my personal life. I was not doing the best mentally that first year. I was having a lot of heartbreak and issues in that aspect. And then I was thinking about towards the end of my grad school time. So last semester was also kind of rough because it's just a lot of stuff happening in my personal life. So I was having to work through all of it while also meeting the expectations of me to make all this work and get deadlines done, help teach classes, doing all of that. And I think if I wouldn't have been in grad school, it would have been really hard to make it through those aspects. So looking back, all of that work I was creating was how I was making it through all these difficult situations. So in the end, it really just became a term that really fit with me and resonated with me and my experience. So it just all worked out.
More about the exhibit can be found on TigerMediaNet.com later today. A common consumption area is a defined public area where individuals can possess and consume alcoholic beverages. The Hays City Commission has considered establishing a common consumption area downtown for several years, but just officially established one at the end of last month. Here's more on that. Hays City Commission recently approved a common consumption area in downtown Hays. This allows individuals to purchase alcoholic beverages at downtown establishments and then leave the establishments with those drinks and walk around within the confines of the boundary. I spoke with Deputy City Manager Colin Belzer to learn more.
A big focus has been to keep downtown an event-driven area. We have a lot of art walks and the symphony plays in the pavilion and a lot of things happen like that. So we wanted to, the boundary was looked at in terms of how can we foster that event-driven type culture.
The commission looked at two boundary options. The first was a simple rectangle, and the second included a chimney, which was added to include a few more businesses in the common consumption area. Any alcohol violations in the common consumption area will be the responsibility of the city. For this reason, the boundaries were drawn to exclude residential areas as much as possible.
So we wanted to try and limit as much exposure as possible, and we felt by if we opened it up to more residential areas, particularly kind of because we're closer to the campus, that might cause some issues with our permit with the state.
The approved boundary includes nearly every bar in Hays, but does not include On the Rocks or Chuck's. Chuck's owner, Chuck Taylor, says that this exclusion will cause complications for his establishment.
Right now, everybody knows, so it's not like I have to pay somebody to sit at the door and say, you can't take that with you, because everybody knows. And 99% of the people follow that rule, so it's not a huge issue as of now. Now you change the rules, and people just get used to it, and it's just going to increase how many people just walk out the door. So now we're going to have to probably change out how we do things around here security-wise.
Chuck's is directly across the street from campus and falls within a more residential area. And while Taylor understands the city's concerns, he feels that more could have been done to include his business.
We've been here for 18 years, doing everything we can to run a good place, pay our taxes and everything, contribute to the downtown area, but we feel like we're being excluded.
Now, it's important to note that the common consumption area is not yet in full effect. The city is required to place signage and paint lines of demarcation outlining the boundary of the area, and individual businesses must acquire a permit from the state before they will be able to participate in the common consumption area. Now, Belzer has no official timeline for this, but he hopes the area will be operational sometime this fall. For Tiger Media Network, I'm Alicia Fireherm. That's it for this week's TMNtv News. To stay up to date with local, state, and national news, visit TigerMediaNet.com as well as our social media pages. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week. This has been Alicia Fireherm with TMNtv News.